Angela Levin is a royal biographer, and she joins us this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Julie.
Lots to talk about ahead of this coronation. Just briefly, want to get your thoughts on that arrest last night outside Buckingham Palace. A man was arrested after throwing suspected shotgun shells over the gates. This is in broad daylight, 7 o'clock as it still was. Tourists forced behind a cordon. There was a special controlled explosion of a bag they believed to be suspicious. It's believed to be a mental health issue rather than certainly an attempted terror attack. But what were your reaction when you heard that news last night?
Well, I was really shocked because I'd been opposite Buckingham Palace for most of the morning, and it was full of people sort of taking you here and taking you there, but it all seemed rather superficial. But then to see that there didn't seem to be too many policemen or protection officers around the Buckingham Palace itself, I'm sure it will give everybody a jolt. And I think it will be even harder for actually journalists to get in, because you have to have things around your neck and a yellow...
Your passes and your security clearance, yeah.
And all that. And I think it has to be like that because... well, they say it's a mental health issue, but actually the papers will investigate this.
Actually, once there's an arrest, of course, obviously, I mean, he hasn't been named, then there are obviously going to be more limitations on what can be talked about. It does appear that this is all kind of, done and dusted, doesn't it? Can I ask you about protests, though? Because new protest powers under the Public Order Act have been rushed forward. They were due to come in a few months' time, particularly to stop disruption of what the government calls major sporting and cultural events, things like, climate protests, but also Republic, the anti-monarchy group. New police powers coming into effect as of today. Do you agree with that? Is there a real concern about protest?
Well, we had a bit of a row about that a week or so ago.
We did.
And I feel that people obviously can protest, but I think when they really stop people going about their work and taking people to hospital and things like that, I don't think it should be allowed. I think they need to put in, you can do it here and there, but you can't actually do it when you're really disturbing people on very important journeys.
Well, from today, given royal assent by the King yesterday, protesters who block roads, airports and railways can face 12 months behind bars. Anyone locking on to others or locking onto objects or buildings could face 6 months in jail and an unlimited fine. I think the fines are the key giveaway. People need to start being fined and forced to pay the costs of the damage that they do.
Yes.
And the disruption that they cause. And people whose cars have been stopped, you should be able to, to sue cheaply the civil courts for loss of work that day. But police will also crucially be able to head off disruption by stopping and searching protesters if they suspect they're setting out to cause chaos. Now, we did see some of that happen actually ahead of the Grand National, didn't we? Where some people they had forewarning and when they went to get people in advance. There's a really difficult balance, though, isn't there? Between the right to protest, but also the right of people to go about their lawful business, including attending a coronation, a major event in our constitutional calendar.
Yes. I mean, what is worrying is that there was noise talking about. So people were talking about that they were going to fire things at the horses.
Yeah,
and that could really
rape alarms that could distress them.
And that could lead to death and danger. And I think they've actually got us. If anybody does that, I hope they won't, but if they do, they've really got to be punished because it's a terrible thing to do to an animal, but also it's very dangerous for human beings.
Indeed.
And people who are watching down the side.
Yeah, I mean, it's the equivalent of shouting fire in a packed theatre, isn't it? And, it's in terms of the risk to people. Let me also ask you about this fascinating interview Princess Anne has done with CBC, that's a Canadian broadcaster, CBC News. Let's have a little listen to a few clips and I'll get your responses. But particularly she was talking about this idea of like a slimmed down monarchy. This is what she had to say about that.
Well, I think the slim down was said in a day when there were a few more people around to make that seem like a justifiable comment.
The world changes a bit.
It changes a bit. I mean, it doesn't sound like a good idea from where I'm standing, I have to say.
I'm sure it does
I'm not quite sure what else, we can do.
Wonderful. I love how downbeat Princess Anne is on these things. She also revealed what kind of king Charles is going to be and already is.
Well, you know what you're getting because he's been practicing for a bit. And I don't think he'll change. You know, he is committed of his own level of service. That will remain true.
And she also discussed the longevity of the monarch as well.
Because I believe that there is a genuine benefit from this particular arrangement, the constitutional monarchy, and I think it has good long-term benefits. And that commitment to long-term is what the monarchy stands for.
Well, yeah, music, by the way, added by CBC News in Canada. Fascinating, Angela Levin. She doesn't do very many interviews, although she's probably the hardest working royal, isn't she? She does an awful lot of events, and everyone I know who's worked with her with their charities says, you know, she does all the, you know, the hard miles behind the scenes, not all just the fancy stuff that you might see in the cameras. But particularly talking about the slimmed down monarchy, she made quite a good point, wasn't she? This idea that Prince Charles, as was, wanted to slim down the monarchy. Well, it's kind of already been slimmed down rather a lot, hasn't it?
It has been slimmed down, and I think people are working incredibly hard to keep it going. And I think that King Charles said these things quite a while ago, and he will, after the coronation, obviously re-look at everything and see if it's right and if it's fair for the people who are working absolutely non-stop. It wasn't written in gold and can't be changed. I'm sure he'll do that. What I like most about what Princess Anne said was that it was long-term stability, and it's quite hard to get that from any other organisation. And I think she's absolutely right. And I think we will see on Saturday that people are keen, that people do want this and actually feel they are part of it. Because, I mean, you don't want a worn-out ex-prime minister taking over. Or
that's always the fear, isn't it? Although I think a lot of people were saying, oh, if it's David Attenborough or Joanna Lumley, they'd be quite happy. Can I ask you, though, about, I mean, there's no doubt at all, latest polling, very clear, the majority of the country still want to maintain constitutional monarchy, no doubt about that. But polls shows that 6 out of 4, well, polls in 6 out of 14 nations which still have the king as their head of state would vote to remove the king as head of state. They include Australia and Canada, two of our biggest allies, Bahamas, Jamaica and Antigua in the Caribbean. We've seen a number of nations in recent years. In fact, we had that sort of disastrous foreign tour with William and Kate, where pretty much every country they went to went, oh, well, by the way, we'd like to become a republic. How damaging is that? Or is that just something to be expected, as these nations have been independent for many, many years and would obviously want, it's roughly reasonable, they would want to have a head of state who lived in their country?
Yeah, but I think they're completely allowed to do that. And actually, a lot of them who have done that already, become independent, still join with the group of people and come every year. There's 54
in the Commonwealth.
People in the Commonwealth who belong to the Commonwealth, and whether King Charles is their head or not, he doesn't seem to mind that. It's not a controlling thing. It's just that if they all work together, they can help each other.
Yeah, the Commonwealth group of nations is a very powerful group, and again, it includes some very, very, very powerful nations. Can I ask also about another poll? A third of Britons think that the national anthem should be changed. I'm amazed it's just a third, I'm not going to lie. 40% don't like the lyrics being so focused on the king, you know, the queen, you know, God save the queen, a king, a queen. 9% say they don't like it being so religious, you know, all about God, which is interesting given the low rates of religious belief in this country, according to the census. 23% just say it's old-fashioned, and 83%, and I'm among those, don't know the lyrics after the first verse. We're all totally good on the first verse, second verse, a little bit of a struggle. Do you think we should change the national anthem?
No, we don't.
Just
the same as we shouldn't change people's books and how they've written. This is something that the royal family have had and heard for hundreds of years. And I think if people don't like it, they don't have to listen. But you can't keep changing everything to update it. It's not going to be a pop song that you sort of find that everybody's okay about it. Okay, if they're not religious, okay, they don't have to listen. They don't have to sing it. But this is it. This is this is important thing that we should do all the time.
But a national anthem does have to be something that, I mean, that everybody is proud of and takes part in. My God, when I was a child in America a couple of years, you used to sing the national anthem and salute the flag every morning in the classroom.
Yes, but actually, if you remember, after TV and radio, people used to have the national anthem
midnight,
at midnight. They don't do that. They've modernised that.
Can they still do that on Radio 4?
It was on Radio 4, but it's not now.
I don't know. I don't listen to Radio 4 anymore.
Not been for a long time.
Angela, I will have to leave it there, but it's always so good to chat to you. Thank you so much, as always. And you've got a very busy week.